Good day to you and welcome to another Paddocks Club video tutorial, this one recorded in my home office. We're now in the third week of February, very close to the end of the default financial year, so I'll give a bit more attention to the budgeting process and the duty of trustees to watch the body corporate's cash flow during the course of the financial year. One of the issues that comes up again and again in scheme management is the potentially negative effects of budgeting by applying a fixed percentage increase to last year's budget. Whilst completely understandable that owners want to keep their cost increases under control, they cannot judge what money the scheme will need by references to increases in the CPI. I venture to suggest that it will almost never happen that a scheme will have exactly the same expenses in 2 or 3 consecutive years. In practice, expenses occur irregularly and unexpectedly, and it's simplistic to assume that, as in the case of salary increases, one can properly budget by simply adding a percentage increase to last year's levies, without doing the hard work of actually costing the anticipated expenses. Taking into account the scheme's reserves, if any, you can't budget properly. And it's worth noting that the Sectional Titles Act does specifically require owners to budget properly. Section 37(1)(a), as you probably know, states that it's the body corporate's function to establish for administrative expenses a fund sufficient in the opinion of the body corporate for the repair, upkeep, control, management and administration of the common property, including reasonable provision for future maintenance and repairs. In other words, owners are obliged under the law to budget properly and to make reasonable provision for future expenses. So from the perspective of a trustee or a managing agent involved in proposing a budget at the AGM, it's a breach of their fiduciary duties to owners to propose anything less than an amount they have carefully calculated as the body corporate's likely expenses, plus a reasonable amount for repair and maintenance contingencies. Of course, owners will always complain that a body corporate increase that's in excess of their salary or the increase in the profit that their business made last year leaves them poorer. But you can't budget on what owners consider affordable. You have to budget on the scheme's actual anticipated financial needs. But if you are in a scheme where owners refuse to budget properly and you are an owner, trustee or a managing agent, you then need to watch the scheme's cash flow like a hawk. And if more money is being spent than is being recovered in levies, you need to suggest and, if possible, insist on a special levy as soon as possible to keep the body corporate on an even financial keel. I recently dealt with a matter in which it was an upmarket scheme actually, and the levies had been kept the same without any proper budgeting for 3 years. In this last financial year, the reserves had been steadily eroded until they were exhausted, and the trustees were desperately trying to get levy finance at the same time as calling the AGM, a situation you do not want to face. A final point: while the current Sectional Titles Act doesn't specify that a scheme must have a reserve fund, the Sectional Title Schemes Management Act will do so, and all schemes will have to render an annual return to the Community Scheme Ombudsman Service with a copy of their annual financial statements. So the CSOS will monitor the obligation to keep reserves at the prescribed levels. And yes, the Minister will be prescribing minimum reserve fund levels once that Act becomes operational. If you have any comments or queries on this timely issue, please make them in the discussion forum. And thank you for joining me in another Paddocks Club video tutorial.